Hello, this is Jean Marie Ward with Buzzy Magazine. With me today is multi-award-winning author Kim Headlee. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Jean Marie.
From your first published novel, Dawn Flight, to your latest, Raging Sea, King Arthur and the Matter of Britain have played an important role in your work. What keeps you coming back to this particular well?
I began studying the Arthurian legends when I was 9 years old. 2 years before that, my parents took me to see the movie Camelot when it was live in the theaters. So that kind of dates me, but that's fine. And from those viewings, and we did watch it multiple times in the theater, I came away with two things I absolutely loved about that movie. The first was the scene from the beginning that showed this Princess Guinevere in her white fur coat singing about the joys of maidenhood, and they were kind of bloody. And then later in the movie, when the knights were fighting amongst themselves, and one of them had ridden his horse up on top of the round table and it broke underneath the horse. And those two images were very striking to me, and they basically have informed my studies ever since. 20 years ago, I began my official published career with a mission to redeem Guinevere from 15 centuries of bad press, and that was essentially how Dawn Flight was born. And I, at that point, made plans to write a total of 8 books in the series. Originally 6, and 2 more have been added, including Raging Sea, the latest. It was not part of the original structure, but it is now.
Mm-hmm. You've called Raging Sea your take on the Lancelot legend, but your hero is named Anguisel. How does that work?
So, in part of my research, I came across a gentleman by the name of Geoffrey of Monmouth. He wrote what is called the History of the Kings of Britain, more fiction than actual history. And one of the characters was a character by the name of Anguisselus, who has been linked to Lancelot. I latched onto that and ran with it. The other reason I ran with it was to divest people of the idea that, oh, Lancelot was a later French invention and addition to the myths and that kind of thing.
Where does Mark Twain fit into all this?
Okay, so in 2006, my then literary agent came back from a Book Expo America, and he sent out a blanket email to his client list saying, hey, I met a publisher at BEA who was actively interested in acquiring sequels to 19th century authors' works. So I wrote back and I said, hey, what about a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court, because of the whole King Arthur thing and so forth. So at that point, I got the go-ahead to start writing the sequel, providing that I updated it for the 21st century. So that's where Mark Twain comes into my corpus now.
Oh, yes. What kind of research did you do to create the world of the early Dark Ages, both for your Arthurian books, the eight-part series, and for, it's not called a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court.
It's called King Arthur's Sister in Washington's Court.
Yes. How did you research all of those novels?
So in those days, of course, the internet was in its infancy. Mainly what I did was I conducted research in libraries and field research, which is something I dearly love to do when my finances and time availability intersect. And so that is mainly what I do now when I am doing major world building changes. The little quickie things, just verifying details, I'll go out to the internet. You know, if it's something that's I want for the story, but it's not a crucial element to the plot, that's where I do the quick and dirty research.
It sounds like a lot of work. Were you able to repurpose any of that research for your other books, Liberty and Snow in July?
Absolutely. Never waste good research. Research is the thing that I like second best to writing itself. So I invest a lot of time in it. I have learned how to incorporate it into my fiction in such a way that people are learning things without realizing they're learning things. But yeah, details about the Celts I worked into Liberty because Liberty's heroine is a Celt from northern Britain who gets sold into slavery and then ends up fighting in the Colosseum. And Snow in July, which is set in the Battle of Hastings. It starts in the middle of the battle, and then it deals with the emotional and economic impact and the political impact. Because the heroine in that book is Saxon, and it was set in the Glastonbury district, which has a very strong legendary connection to King Arthur. I worked some of those legends in as well.
Yeah. Cool. You and your husband both served in the military. I can see the echoes of your service in the way you handle your military characters. What about your civilian life? How has living on a farm affected the way you see earlier eras?
There have been a lot of farm goings on, and to be fair, we lease our pastures to someone else who runs the cattle and bales the hay and that kind of thing. But knowing about those agricultural cycles and what's involved with slaughtering and baling the hay, even though it's done with machines now, it is a very easy transition to think back to how people used to do it. So those kinds of details do find their way worked into my fiction.
You were traditionally published before you began publishing independently. How hard was it to make the switch?
Once I fired my literary agent, it was easy. And I have Jean Marie to thank for that, although it took me too many years to take her advice. No, literally, we had a falling out over the King Arthur's sister in Washington's court because I started writing it after I got the go-ahead. 50 pages in, it hit me. Who did I think I was trying to emulate the father of American literature? And that doubt stopped me for 3 years.
Oh.
So in that time, I lost my publication window. And when I finally finished the project and went back to my agent with it, he was like, well, nobody's going to want to publish that now. Okay, fine, I'll do it myself. Thank you very much. We're done here.
But that's one of the books that won an award.
It did. It won the Independent Book Publishers Association Gold Medal Award for Science Fiction and Fantasy in 2016.
See? He was wrong. And I told you he was wrong.
Yes, you did.
What are you working on now?
Right now, I am working on the sequel to that book. So the new book is going to be called King Arthur's Sister, the Once and Future Queen. Originally, it was going to be called just The Once and Future Queen, but in that time period, other people came out with books with that title, including books about Guinevere and so forth. So it's like, okay, we're going to keep the same vein with King Arthur's sister, so there's no issue with clarity.
And not only that, it keeps it in a series.
It
right?
does.
It does identify it. Before we close, is there anything you'd like to add?
Buy my books, please.
And on that note, thank you, Kim, and thank you for Buzzy Magazine.
Thank you.